Hello and welcome to the Monsters, Myths, and Mayhem podcast. Silver here, and as always, the wonderful.
Chaotic. I got it this time. Did you see how well I did with that?
Yeah. Getting better after 30 some episodes.
You better just tone down the sarcasm, sir.
Part of that's probably my fault for catching you by surprise every single time. In some sort of way or another.
It's like you change it every time. Usually it's like a small introduction, you're like followed by or like talking with and these last couple times you've just been like, I'm Silver. Dead silence. Like, excuse me?
Testing your reaction speed. So, this starts our October episode. I believe this one's coming out on the 1st of October. I think. I don't have a calendar. But yeah, this will be a third. Third, yes. This should be, well, today should be October 3rd, technically, for you listeners.
We're in the past. We're still in September.
But yeah, all of our October episodes are going to be special, like we said last episode. Today we're going to start with the King of the Monsters.
Gojira.
The movie monsters. Yes, as Kayak said, Godzilla. Isn't there a web domain called Godzilla?
I know there's one called Zilla.
That might be what I'm thinking of. We're not talking about that. For some... that's it. I was thinking of GoDaddy. I'm not sure why I thought of that.
There is literally one named Zilla, so why you went straight to GoDaddy in your brain is not... I have no idea. What do you just call Godzilla Daddy in your spare time?
It's probably from talking with you so much when talking about Godzilla.
Not the roast to my monsters. Like, I wish that obviously you guys are an audio service, but I wish you could have just seen the absolute betrayal and shock on my face.
But yeah, starting monster's gonna be Godzilla, the not one and only.
Question mark?
What do you know about Godzilla, Chaotic?
So much stuff. I don't even know where to begin. You've got organized notes, and I know you've got organized notes over there. So you go, and I'll input.
Yeah, I do not have organized notes, but I do
you
have some
notes. They may not be organized, but you have notes.
As to my comment before, Godzilla has died multiple times, so he's not the one and only Godzilla. He has a total of 36 movies that he's in. He started out in the 1954 film Godzilla, where he was the main antagonist.
Always.
And that's where he kind of got his start as in theater movies.
His original symbolism was to bring awareness to nuclear weapons.
I know he was awakened and irradiated by an American hydrogen bomb test out in the Pacific Ocean. It angered Godzilla, prompting him to go towards a rampage on Tokyo, where I believe the first film actually did terrorize quite a few people back when it first came out. And I don't remember.
What are you asking about it?
During the movies, I think the first movie, I think they got banned for a little bit in Tokyo, in Japan.
It did. It was very severe. It was like it was very intense, especially for the day and age and the time, and him destroying Tokyo and everything that Japan had already been through. And it was kind of like I said, it was like an awareness of nuclear weapons. So it was kind of like a rehash of Hiroshima. It was kind of unfortunate for their history and overall culture. So it did get them in trouble for a bit.
That's what I kind of thought, because that was right after the bombing, I believe, right? Not too far after it.
Yeah, it wasn't too much after. And that's kind of why he was positioned that way. There was like hang on. Yeah, it was it was following and representing bombs of Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and Lucky Dragon 5. So it was literally he was all of the bombings put together in destruction in the movie.
Yeah, I don't think that's actually changed any going out through the history of the movies.
Some of the newer representations of Godzilla have him painted out to be more of like a like an anti-hero or like a stance for humanity. He still obviously causes some wreckage because when you're that big, it's kind of impossible not to.
Size is always an issue when you're trying to save things like Mount Lady from My Hero Academia.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And so like things just get wrecked on basis, but they did try to make him more of a humanity standpoint because it was very unfortunate the time that the first one came out and the first Godzilla portrayal was basically kind of an at like a straight up tag at the United States because like you've awoken the great big monster that's going to come destroy your whole city. Like it was very unfortunate and a very unfortunate standpoint. So that's kind of why they flipped it around and threw it back into like a safe monster question mark. That's not probably the best terminology, but that's what he was. He was protecting us instead of destroying us.
Yeah. Some of Godzilla's powers, quotation mark, they're his abilities he's gained or has, is his powerful jaws, his enormous size, he's got near invulnerability, and of course his classic atomic breath, which he got from when he got irradiated when he woke up.
Yeah, and he needs that radiation to kind of like survive and have his powers and all that. So
Like how they portray his atomic breath in some of the films, where this is the newest one where his spines glow.
oh my god, yes, and I love it so much because all you see is it start from like the tip of his tail and slowly go up, and it has the wall. It's like beautiful. They did a majestic job with it.
Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, literally. If only, and that's the thing is his in the newer, obviously like in the older ones, his growl and like his screech and stuff is very cheesy. It was very much just. Like it was terrible. And the newer ones I really like. I love the roar he has and the blast that he does. I just wish they would have combined them a bit. I wish that when the blast was like building up, when he finally fired it off, I wish that the roar would have came with it, if that made sense. It still sounds super cool, but to hear the roar with it would be neat. And I thought it was cool in like the newer films when he roars, it matches his size. Like in the older films, it sounds kind of like maybe what we would expect maybe a dinosaur sounded like.
Yeah.
But even now, dinosaurs were big. They were building sized, but they weren't Muto and Mothra and Godzilla sized. You know what I mean? So you have to match that size and sound ordinance, and I feel like they did a really good job in the new ones with making it like that big echo boom. So it wasn't as piercing as you thought it would be maybe in the theaters or whatever, but like imagining that in person and the way that would probably carry across and the way that it echoed and like resonated with the sound was really neat. I thought they did a really good job.
Yeah, that kind of brings us to what Godzilla looked like, because he has many irritations. He has many many iterations.
Irritations? Allegations?
when he first came to the silver screen, he looked a lot like a theropod dinosaur, which is, T-Rex size, smaller arms, big bulky legs, big head, jaws, tiny eyes.
Right, for sure.
He's changed throughout the movies to where he's more built in the arms. He's less theropod-like. He's not quite standing on his tail as much.
Mm-hmm.
That could also be because that first original Godzilla died in that first movie. And the next Godzilla is actually a completely different Godzilla, but they kept the same name. It's like you get a bear attacking people in the wild. The bear goes away back into the woods, and there's another bear. You just call it bear. There's a Godzilla attack instead of like a bear attack.
Right.
And they did have kind of names. Like there was Godzilla, the original one. Then there was Showa Godzilla, Heisei Godzilla, Godzilla 1999, Godzilla 2000, GMK Godzilla,
Mecha Godzilla.
yeah, Mecha Godzilla, Hirasaga Godzilla, FW Godzilla, Monsterverse Godzilla, Shin Godzilla, Godzilla Filius, Godzilla Earth. There's as many Godzillas as there is Spider-Man.
I was about to say you're getting into Marvel Universe is what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Then you got the Godzillas that aren't Godzillas, like Mecha Godzilla. Then there's Red Godzilla.
I know Mecha Godzilla isn't a Godzilla, like he's a man-made Zilla, but he's still pretty tight, okay?
Mm-hmm. He only, lost 4 times before he actually beat Godzilla.
Yeah, and even that was rough, so.
Yeah, he had to have the help of Mothra.
But that was the neat part about Mecha Godzilla, I guess, is because as humans we have to fail to learn. And Godzilla just comes out the water, this beast. He knows he's gonna win. Take Godzilla versus Kong, for example. He came up knowing I might get my ass beat, but he whooped butt, you know what I mean? And he just, as an animal instinct, does that. We as humans don't. So when we create something to oppose these things, we have to do a lot of trial and error. So that's why he had to face Godzilla so many times.
Even then, they still barely won.
Yeah.
But, yeah, then Red Godzilla, who is also called Baragon, which you can find Baragon in, I think it's like Godzilla, or Monster Mix Fight, which has all the monsters fighting each other. Or in Frankenstein versus Baragon. There's a whole movie series of Frankenstein going around fighting monsters.
That sounds about right.
And Baragon's more of a Terra Godzilla, where he lives underground.
Yeah, less water-based.
Where Godzilla was probably some sort of crocodile or ancient lizard under the water, amphibian. I'm going to guess Godzilla's amphibious.
He is amphibious because he does the transfer well. He has land legs and swims at great speeds in the water.
I think one of them actually has gills as well. I think it was Godzilla 2000. One of the few English ones. I think he has gills.
He might. In the newer ones, he's definitely more crocodile-like.
Gotta get that reptile representation.
Love us some crocodiles.
First Godzilla was actually killed by a Dr. Daisuke and his experimental chemical weapon, the oxygen destroyer. Which kind of comes to question, if they knew this worked on Godzilla, why didn't they just use it on all the others?
To be fair, most of the other Godzillas don't even know about the original Godzillas because there would be so many centuries between like storylines and stuff like that, or so many years and nobody would have anything to say, and then like the newer Godzillas are restarted like there was no original Godzillas. Like it was, it depends on the lore, but they changed Godzilla. Not all of the Godzillas needed to be killed. They were helping us.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like I'm going to use this reference again, a Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse type situation where each Godzilla has his own verse.
True. I mean, he's got to be everywhere, defending everywhere. Except for that one Godzilla that wants to destroy Tokyo. Fucking fuck him up.
Then the original actor who portrayed the first Godzilla, his name was Haru Nakajima. The costume they used for him was 6'5" and 200 pounds.
Wow.
That'd be a lot to walk around in.
For sure.
Can you guess the unofficial fight record for Godzilla?
The unofficial fight record?
Yes, for his entire 36 movie career.
I would have no idea.
Okay, so he has a total of 43 wins, 7 losses, 4 draws.
Who are his draws with? Do you know?
I have a couple of his losses, which could also be counted as draws because most of the time Godzilla just, quits fighting and walks back into the ocean.
Right, he's gonna go repair and do his thing.
Yeah. So they count it as a draw and a loss sometimes. But he has technically lost to, from what I researched, he's lost to Kong in 1962
Yep.
because they tussled. Kong suddenly gained lightning powers from being struck by lightning and just kept zapping Godzilla over and over till they fell into the ocean where only Kong surfaced.
Sounds fair.
And the director or writer of the movie said that, yeah, that was Kong winning and Godzilla losing. But that same Godzilla is one that washed up later in a different movie on the shores. He's lost to Mothra's babies. So Mothra had larvals.
Larvas.
Yeah, my notes say Mothra's larval babies, which that's kind of because back in 1964, Mothra fought Godzilla. Mothra died, but her babies hatched, strung them up in silk and thread, and then just kind of finished them off. Then he lost again, and a team up between Mothra and Batra teamed up against him. Batra died, but Mothra sealed him in the ocean in 1992, and Batra was like a counter to Mothra. They worked together. Mothra wanted to save the people. Batra wanted to save the planet. So they were fighting in this movie because then Godzilla came and they both decided, hey, Godzilla doesn't want to save the planet or the people. So technically Mothra won that fight because Godzilla killed Batra for her.
Yeah, technically Mothra just defends anyone that wants to defend her home. So as long as she's protecting her people and Earth, then she'll protect whoever's helping and assisting that mission.
That was in a 1992 film. Then he lost again to Baragon, Mothra, and Ghidorah's. They're spirits. They're ghosts. He lost to them. After he killed all of them, their ghosts teamed up and sealed him away. Which, that's kind of unfair. You just destroyed all your enemies and they come back as ghosts just to seal you.
Just to be like, go home.
Yep. As I mentioned before, Mechagodzilla beat him on their fourth fight. He flew Godzilla out to the sea. Then when they put him in the ocean, he just headed off into the sea. And another one was the Mechagodzilla Mothra team up, which I mentioned earlier, because Mothra died in this one again due to Godzilla. But her children lived, wrapping Godzilla up. Then Mechagodzilla used his drill to go into the chest of Godzilla. Then he carried him. Then Mechagodzilla carried him into the ocean. Which, if you keep defeating Godzilla and throwing him in the ocean, is he just going to keep healing in there due to the water? Is he truly dead?
No, I mean, I don't think that they're winning by killing him. I think that they're more so winning by just making him retreat.
That was kind of the end of my notes. Godzilla in the media. Godzilla is the media. We have Godzilla in video games. We have Godzilla in movies, anime TV shows, Chaotic Secret Diaries.
Shut up, Silver. What the fuck?
And all sorts of places. I think there's even Godzilla songs. A bunch of different podcasts. Have you ever played the game War of the Monsters? It was back in 2002 on the PlayStation 2.
I don't think I have.
It was a fun game. It's you can be Godzilla in it if I remember right, along with all the other monsters. Then you just end up. It's like a free-for-all battle. You can destroy the environment. You free roam. You can pick up telephone towers and spike your opponent with them.
That sounds lit. I don't think I've played it.
Anything else media-wise, or anything else to add to the info for Godzilla Chaotic? Because I am out of notes.
I think basic info-wise, that's pretty much it. I think it'd be interesting for people to know that he can literally absorb nuclear power. So while his powers are also nuclear and he can be awoken with it, he can also thrive off of it. So in the newest King of Monsters movie, it shows the doctor going down and feeding him with a nuclear bomb. It helps heal him, restore him, get his energy back up. And so I think it's neat too that now in the newer ones, it's almost like he takes the brunt. Like if he takes the brunt of a nuclear weapon, he could potentially save us in that sense, and also get himself more of a healing process going. So I just think it's interesting to know that, because in the original one, the nuclear bombings woke him up. It awakened him. And even the newer-ish one, when the Mutos are woken up, they are woken up kind of with a nuclear wave of him, like him waking up kind of wakes up all the other ancient beings and monsters, because his growl is kind of like a sound wave to the others. So it's just neat to see that they work in those big, huge, catastrophic ways.
Roar is like an alarm clock. All the monsters just kind of get up and they're trying to shut the alarm clock up. They always lose to the alarm clock. I like how he can absorb nuclear blasts now too. That's definitely helpful, more helpful than harmful in today's society.
Agreed.
With that, say on with the mayhem. Kind of like Godzilla's breaths charging.
On with the mayhem.
Mayhem wise, it's kind of already showed Godzilla can make pretty mayhemy stuff in the modern day, because his movies are pretty modern set. With his size, atomic breath, which I don't think any buildings beside a concrete blast bunker could probably withstand. Even then, you'd probably be irradiated everywhere.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Would he be technically a walking nuclear bomb? Would he be giving off radiation?
See, this is where it gets sketchy. So when he does his atomic breath, I always thought maybe that would leave behind some residue, right? Like maybe he's now made the area he's in some kind of radiation garden. However, every time he uses his atomic breath, it's not like they protect the city and ward everything off and are like, oh, we've got to do a sweep through to make sure there's no atomic waste. Like, it seems like the way his body absorbs and digests it for the atomic breath, when he releases it, he is not releasing any toxins other than the ones that are in his breath to hurt. So it doesn't seem like it sticks around. It doesn't seem like it lingers. It seems like he pretty much absorbs it, because even in the newer, because the older Godzillas, obviously, a lot of them didn't necessarily absorb so much as they just kind of fed off of. And the newer Mutos even needed, like, the male Muto is, I'm sorry, the female Muto hoards the nuclear bomb, the nuclear waste under her to try and get her hatchlings. And so it's like they all kind of feed off of it. I think it's kind of like a size thing, because they're huge ancient creatures. This power that it radiates is just like all powerful and all healing to them. So I feel like in the newer ones, if we were to go off of more modern Godzilla, we wouldn't have any residue left over if he's involved. I feel like it doesn't linger with him in the newer ones. However, if it was older Godzilla, it would have to be, we would almost have to already get hit with a nuke or a nuclear weapon of some sort for him to act. So I feel like the older ones would be far more chaotic to deal with. Whereas the newer one, yeah, he destroys stuff, and yeah, things are still lit and things are still crazy, but it's not as detrimental to our health to be in the area, atomic waste-wise. So
it's almost technically like when he's absorbing the nuclear power, he's cleansing it, and then what he's expelling is more of like a Kamehameha, just a pure energy beam.
Yeah, right. And we see that we've seen in some of the older ones when he releases the breath, it kind of is like a fiery base. So it like kind of catches things on fire, like blows other things up. It's kind of like it's definitely a more mayhem-y power to have, because he's definitely like hurting other sources with it. And in the new one, he's intelligent enough to open the Muto's mouth and shoot that beam straight down his throat. So it's like it could be like fire-based, fire-breathing dragon-like, I think, in some of them, and then other ones, like you said, it's a pure energy-based, almost beam of like plasmic energy. Like he forms it in his body and shoots it back out like a plasma. So
Where? Because when he in the newer ones, you could see it coming up his tail and his spines. Would he store all that energy inside his tail? Probably. Where
I
or
feel
is
like,
because or does it go from his like head down to his butt, then back up his tail, his spines?
bear with me here. I feel
Okay.
like, especially when I grew up on Godzilla, and my dad loved Godzilla. My dad loves all the old cheesy Godzillas, all of the old black and white, moving, motion picture, like super old Godzillas. All of them, it seems to be more of a, like you said, it stores in his tail, and it's almost like a regag reflex where it's coming back up and he's forcing it back up. But I like to think, and this is just my theory, the newer Godzilla stores it in his scales, because you could push all of that energy, like if it's sitting like underneath the skin like a crocodile, like the crocodile absorbs sun. I feel like he'd be able to push all of that energy down, and then it goes up through his spine and like shoots up through that way. So it's almost like his actual spines are absorbing it, and it's almost like it's like the end of his tail is like a lighter. So it lights it, but all of the stuff that the spine's been holding this entire time underneath those scales is just lighting from one end to the other. Because obviously, just like a fire-breathing dragon does, when they spark, it starts from the back of the throat, and then they spark it forward. So I feel like it works the same way. I feel like it's in his spines already. Like he's absorbed it and he's keeping it, and he keeps it and stores it there. And then he has something at the end of his tail, probably like a built-in acid and or like a just like a self-igniter that he has, and it would just slowly like light like candles up his spine to eventually be in his esophagus and stuff.
That does seem like a good theory. Kind of hard to tell with some of these larger monster anatomies. They might have more organs than we have.
Right, and they can have like a venal system, like a vein system in their spine that would like help with maybe if it was like in his bloodstream kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like with the transfer of energy and the fire coming out of his mouth, it's more so a stored on like in the tissue kind of thing.
With the ability to come out his mouth, if it's stored in his scales, that still leaves it would also give him a secondary ability to come out the other side.
You're not wrong. Very much could. I think it's a directional push. I think just because of the dragon-like quality that they give him, they've mostly stuck with the mouth. But you're not wrong.
They haven't fed him enough Taco Bell.
No.
Get those atomic.
Eat a Taco Bell, you'll be fine. No more atomic breath, just atomic poops. But he would, I feel like, when it comes down to it, he could also like explode himself if he needed.
Yeah.
Because in the new King of the Monsters, when he takes down King Ghidorah, he kind of is more intense with his beam because he had freshly absorbed that nuke. He had just gotten up. Mothra was helping. She was giving him a lot of power because she kind of carries around a lot of the nuclear power, a lot of that glowy. So she was helping him a lot and keeping him healed and trying to keep his energy up. So we get to see the beam more than just once. Whereas in like the earlier ones, it was like that one shot drained him a lot. And with the fresh beam and him killing King Ghidorah in the newer one, we got to see him beam a couple times. And a couple times he missed. Like, Ghidorah would smack him and he'd like miss and hit a building and stuff. And that's where my theory on it not being nuclear output comes from too, because if he was hitting buildings with that beam and there was no like residue toxic waste, I feel like there's not that ability there to he must do something in his body to get rid of that.
I just imagine him missing and hitting the moon.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it straight beam Kamehameha wise or if it'd go and then it'd lose velocity and start turning.
You're just straight up picturing like a Godzilla toy with like the little fire line thing, and you're just picturing this line continuing to exist in the world until it hits something, and that's just fantastic to me.
His eyes would obviously be mayhemy, kind of like the Tarrasque.
Hear me out. I got a controversial our Tarast has been our biggest mayhem yet. Okay.
Yes.
And I still think for destructive purposes, technically, yes, still. However, Godzilla is terrased with a brain. It's much more dangerous when it's intelligent.
Very much
so. If we went on, like, maybe not even, like, the old Godzilla or the modern Godzilla, say we just went middle ground, like, neutral, like, somewhere in the middle, still very dangerous creature, if it ever decided to turn on humanity. Obviously, we've found ways to get it to go out, like, obviously the zero oxygen, cutting off any pass to the nuclear outlets. That would help a lot. We'd be able to maybe take him down. But he's smart. He has that shit stored. When he goes back underground and he heals, it's because he knows where to get close enough to the core of the earth to get that all revved back up. So it's unfortunate because his constant revitalization system is the core of where we live. So he continues to go back and continues to get that nuclear waste and that nuclear power, just like we saw in the newest Godzilla vs. Kong, when we saw Kong go underneath and see all the ancient temples of the ancient beasts and all of the planets and stuff that they are from, because they're not from Earth. They were planted here as like guardians and or monsters or beasts because they were gods at one point. And there's places for him to recover. It's not like Tarast. Tarast is just kind of this mindless beast wandering around. If it gets set loose, it gets set loose. If it dies, it dies. Godzilla doesn't work like that. So if he ever decided to be Tarast level pissed off or mean to humanity, we'd be screwed. He would absolutely be the biggest threat. But because if he's super violent, he either doesn't have a brain much, like they find a way to defeat him pretty easy. He's more animal than he is God. And then whenever he's godlike, it's protecting humanity or Earth or whatever the most important subject is at the moment, which gives him that brain ability. He's less dangerous, but still just as scary. So it would be difficult.
He's more guardian than God.
Yeah, but they're considered old gods. They're considered old. The beasts of primal area were the ones who ruled first. They were the gods. So kind of a little bit of a backstory. Have you watched Godzilla vs. Kong?
I have not.
All right, so Godzilla vs. Kong. Kong kind of goes underneath the ground. Kong has a child he's communicating with. They talk in sign language because obviously being an ape, being intelligent, he can speak sign language a lot with her. So they speak in sign language and stuff. And she and he end up going underground because they find out that's a way to save them, especially because humans are making Mechagodzilla in that movie, which is the new updated Mechagodzilla. So we'll need to get you to watch soon because it is a good Mechagodzilla portrayal. But in Godzilla vs. Kong, they take Kong underground and they find old Kong shrines. So there's other ones like him. There was beasts like him, and he ends up getting projectiled kind of through a Kong planet because he ends up having to kind of go through like the core. There's like a whole thing on it. I can't really explain it without sounding like we're tripping balls here on the podcast. But he goes through a planet. There's beasts that are 10 times his size, just a little bit smaller than him. I mean, it's a whole primordial world that was out there that they kind of like took over the planets. Like think like Alien versus Predator or like Predator kind of standpoint.
I haven't seen those either. So.
Oh my God, Matthew.
Besides that one Alien we watched at Con. That's Predator. That's Prey.
That was Prey. That was the first. That was supposed to be like one of the first predators that ever visited Earth. So you've not even seen the original shit. We need to watch movies, my guy. Anyways, it's very like they have a home planet and spread out. So they went to other planets, or they were getting tired. Like Kong was a defender of his planet or a defender of Earth. So what he would do is like when Mudos show up, because Mudos are basically less of a better description. They're basically the actual aliens. They're the ones that are unwelcome, that are coming to the planet to take over or feed off of the resources until the planet's dead. And people or creatures like Kong and Godzilla are there to thrive and keep the planet alive versus destroying it for their own power. So, again, Marvel, we've got a Tony Stark and a Thanos.
Yeah.
But so after seeing all of that, it really made me think like these, and that's kind of like the reason that movie is called King of Monsters is because you figure out these creatures were god figures. They were once like the Zeus and the Hades and the Hera or the Titans of the universe. These guys were the gods. They were the primordial ones, the primal, the first, the animals that we evolved from as gods ourselves when we became gods, kind of thing. So they're supposed to be like ancient guardian god beings. And I agree with you. I think they're definitely more guardian than they are god, especially because to be a god would imply that, and I'm sorry to anybody out here who takes offense to this, to be a god implies that you would need to be selfish. And all of these beasts are functioning off of primal instinct. They're not functioning off of, oh, this person called me a name, so I want to kill them. They're functioning off of, you're destroying life sources, reasons for the planet to thrive, reasons for, and that's another scary standpoint, though, is because they thrive off of that. If we continue to destroy the earth, or if we made a movie about how we are the ones harming the earth, Godzilla could turn on us. We're no longer keeping this planet alive. We're no longer thriving with this planet. So it would be, basically they're just protecting their homes as guardians / gods, and we walked in on that. So these guys are god level, planet level destroyers. So it'd be pretty lit.
It would be wild. That's definitely for sure.
Yeah, if they decided to turn on us, it would be like apocalypse level situations.
Yeah, but kind of back to the Tarrasque versus the Godzilla. I think it would at least take Godzilla a couple tries before he figures out how to take down the Tarrasque. Since the Tarrasque doesn't have any of its own healing, but it does have, in D&D terms, magical defenses.
Right, and that's kind of like honestly, if we were gonna compare a creature to Tarrasque, King Ghidorah is very close. He's a 3-headed Hydra dragon flying beast, lizard form. Like he's huge, so he could very well be our quote unquote Tarrasque, because he's less brain oriented and more thirst oriented. So he is very Tarrasque level esque, and he does whoop Godzilla's ass quite a few times.
Yeah.
And Godzilla, I mean, had it not been for the Doctor taking down the nuclear in the most recent Godzilla, he wouldn't have survived either. Because King Ghidorah, I mean, obviously, he's got 3 heads. He's spitting shit at you. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot going on there. Tarrasque is the same level. He's there to kill. He has no other reason to be there. He's got magical defenses, kind of like natural spells that happen when anytime he's in danger. Like, there's a lot going on there that Godzilla would have to learn to do and learn to fight. But I think he would eventually take down Tarrasque when it came down to it, just because of the intelligence level difference.
I think the Tarrasque can also reflect magic, so this is considering Godzilla's atomic breath is magical in nature compared to Tarrasque's world. If Godzilla atomic breaths the Tarrasque's, and it comes back at Godzilla, would that heal Godzilla?
Well, if we go off of the standpoint that we talked about earlier with him being able to absorb the actual nuclear essence of it, it might actually hurt him instead of absorb it.
Yeah.
But at the same point, it's inside of his insides and not burning him from the inside out. So it may not hurt him. It may kind of be like a Game of Thrones. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Okay, Game of Thrones, like Dracarys issue. Dragonfire doesn't hurt Khaleesi. It doesn't hurt Daenerys because she's the true dragon. She's got Targaryen blood. So I think it could be the same difference there. Godzilla's not going to get hurt by his own fire because he is that fire. So it would, I guess, just depend. When it came down to it, the only reason that Kong kept getting so close to defeating Godzilla in this most recent one, because he in fact did not have lightning powers in the most recent one, it was brute power. It was beating him in the chest. It was ripping off scales. It was actual animal to animal beast fighting. So I feel like that would probably be the best route. So if, say, Tarrasque got a good honking claw on Godzilla, there'd definitely be some hella repair time, because Godzilla's only form of defense is his scales and his atomic breath. Once he's out of those, his little arms don't do a whole lot. He's like having to whip his tail around, hoping that he can get him down. That's why Kong always had such an upper hand too, because Kong has functionable hands, feet, legs, teeth, and Godzilla's just kind of whipping his tail around, hoping for the best, and maybe trying to take a chunk every now and then with his teeth. That was about it. He can't actually fight. So it would really just It would come down to it'd be neck and neck, but I really do think that my cards would be on Godzilla's table when it came down to it. Even if he had to repair a couple times, his intelligence would outwit the beast at the end, because Hydra, like you said, the Tarast and even King Ghidorah really don't have a healing source like Godzilla does. So
Yeah, it'd be if Godzilla could adapt a hit and run type strategy, it would be, because I think the Trask would have him beat strength. I think Godzilla would have him beat in everything else: intelligence, dexterity, strength, or not strength, yeah, and dexterity and intelligence.
I agree.
The Trask only has his constitution, his hardiness, his size. I think the Trask is larger than Godzilla, technically.
Yeah, he would be. He would be. I think Tarast is like what, the size of an island and a mountain, like width and height wise.
Trask has blind sight, so he can see 120 feet around him without actually having to see him. So being on the ground or in water won't help you. He's immune to fire, poison, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magical attacks. Which I'm going to guess Godzilla being irradiated would count as magical. So I thought it used to say the Tarask's size here. I was thinking it was like 300 some feet or something like that. Might be because Godzilla is what, 2-story built, or it's like skyscraper height. Old-timey mythical Tarask wouldn't stand a chance.
The prime material plane Tarast, which is technically what we would deal with, is only 50 feet tall and 70 feet long.
Huh. So it's a lot smaller than I thought it was.
Godzilla is 355 feet. So he's 108 meters tall. If we go based off of that, the Tarast is pretty fucked.
Yeah.
Godzilla could step on him. But you're right. There is a Tarast out there that's supposed to be the size. That's how they tell the story. Is he's the size of an island and the width of an island and the size of a mountain. Mm-hmm. So he's supposed to be huge. And if we go off of that, again, we can compare him to King Ghidorah. He's got the 3 heads. He's like the Hydra beast. He was big, and then plus on top of that, he could fly. Yeah. So like, there's a lot of advantage there. But I don't know. I'm trying to look here. Hang on. We've got the original Godzilla was only 50 meters tall.
It's about 150 feet.
But so just for example, the newest Godzilla is 150 meters. He stands over the skyscrapers in the movie. Or like some of the taller ones kind of right at, but he was above most of that. And when he stands up in the water, he can look down at the naval ships and they're like tiny itty bitty miniature ships. You know what I mean? So he was huge. So if we took the middle ground at 80 to 100 meters, that's still going to clap Tarast when it comes down to it. Kong himself stands at 312 feet in the newest 2020. His original was 104 feet, so he was still a solid 30 feet bigger than Tarast. So it would be, I don't know. Like always, it kind of comes down to which one you choose, how it would go. There's, I think, an instance where Godzilla would absolutely fucking wreck Tarast, and then another instance where I think that it would be a bigger, harder fight. I did find a Reddit post that somebody said that they think that their prediction when it came down to it, they kind of did like a little, a stats comparison, strength, charisma, dexterity comparison, and it looked, they said that to the best of their ability, it looked like they would kill each other. So it would end up just kind of going down in history. But again, as we've learned, Godzilla just kind of retreats and goes and heals. But it would be a very, very, very interesting matchup for sure, either way. But like I said, I think with the intelligence level, if Godzilla were to turn on humanity, it would be a little bit more difficult than the Tarast to deal with.
So now we have a new top runner, kind of, due to the special. Should we count that? Countable.
Because he's a movie creature and not so much an actual mythological creature, Tarast still stands as our big boy, I think. Because, I mean, if we go off of movie creatures, there's so many that we could just, I think, shit on with the Tarast, to be honest with you. Yeah. But Tarast as our mythy legend D&D capable tracking boy, I think he's still winning as far as that goes.
If we go mythical ways with the Tarast, Godzilla would just eat him like a skipping stone.
110.
Eat him like a skipping stone across
I
the
mean,
Atlantic.
he got beat by an old lady
Very much
with
so.
a girdle. All right, so like Godzilla would absolutely just kick him across the world and be like, "We're done. It's over. You guys can go back to sleep. It's all done." But if we go by D&D Tarask, like the big boy, I think it would be interesting to see. Okay, so just for comparison, I'll post this next time I have a chance in the Discord. But it has all of the Godzillas by year, and it has the buildings around them to tell us how tall they are. This one's the Godzilla versus Kong. Where did the one go that I was just looking at? Is this it? Oh, no, hang on. Yes. Okay, so the 1998 version was 70 meters. He stood about halfway up a skyscraper. Like, think of the tallest skyscraper in, like, Chicago. He stood about halfway up it. The 1999 to 2000 version was, like, a third off of the top of a skyscraper. The 2002, 2003, the 2016 second form one that was, like, down like a lizard, those guys are real tiny. They're, like, 60 meters. They're, like, a mini skyscraper building, probably, like, maybe the Bell South Tower in, like, Tennessee or something like that. 2004 was at 100 meters. He stands over a skyscraper by about a head. And then our newest boy, our big boy, stands about to his, like, lower chest, like just below where a pectoral would be, over a skyscraper. So he's huge. He's at 119.8 meters. So he's huge. I will post this in the... It's a whole Godzilla size chart. They've got, like, little ones. They've got a big long one. It's very neat. So I will post it. It's very cool to look at. The 2016 fourth form one has, like, a lava center underneath of him, which is cool to look at. Like, it's like I was talking about. Like, it looks like it's settled under his scales. So that's where his power sits. And there's kind of, like, little tear and openings underneath his scales where you can see it glowing. It's really neat.
Now, do you think these Godzillas are all related? Like, they were all part of the same egg group as the first one?
I don't think they were all related in the eggs, but I think that, like, there's been...
They're their own species, or...
Yeah, I think that there's, like, a species of Godzilla. Kind of like I said, that Kong saw that there was a bunch of other Kongs. Yeah. I feel like that's kind of how it is. There's a bunch of Godzillas. And then as maybe as one dies and or maybe as one, like, moves on or, like, something happens, they replace. Maybe. Because... there's not really, you don't ever see more than one on the planet.
So going back to the Guardian theory, maybe it's their Guardian spirit can only withstand one body at a time, is why they're not more than one at a time.
And I think it was the 2014 movie, 2015 movie. I think it was 2014, the first remake of the big Godzilla boy. They kind of make us aware that he was in a cocoon. He was like... he had been, like, hardened over, was, like, asleep in, like, a deep hibernation because we didn't need him. So I feel like it could go in that direction as well. And maybe he just kind of morphs when he's underground.
Maybe that was the cocoon from the previous Mothra's larval wrapping him up. And he just finally decided to wake up from his nap.
It could be very well. However, the relationship between Mothra and Godzilla in the newer movies would suggest probably not, because I don't think Godzilla would let Mothra sit on his shoulders had her children killed him. So, possibly. But in the newest Godzilla movie, and not Godzilla vs. Kong or the King of Monsters, the first remake that they did, like, I think it was 2014, they made it very apparent that all of these beasts and all of these godlike creatures were sleeping for thousands and thousands of years beneath us. So they could have been like ancient civilization, Mesopotamia, old. And like those people saw them, and they are the gods that they wrote about in all of the scriptures and all of the insane appearances and dinosaurs and stuff like that. So they were awake. They fell into a deep slumber because the earth reset itself. The Big Bang, getting frozen over, that I can't remember, Ice Age, all of that. They went to sleep because the Earth was repairing itself. It was going back underway. It was figuring out how to exist. Now they're awake because, once again, they're needed because the Earth is getting cray-cray. So it's interesting to see the different ways that they could evolve. And I think a lot of it is, like you said, the Spider-Verse kind of ordeal. There's like a Godzilla verse out there. There's like a million different ones in a million different planes and like a million different Earths. But the way that this one, the newest one, has kept, it's more so of a deep slumber hibernation. They come up when they need to come up kind of thing. And of course, in the newest ones, guess who's fucking waking them up? Humans, because we don't know how to leave anything the fuck alone. It's not even just America in the newest ones. Just leave things alone. Stop waking them up. The one dude wakes up King Ghidorah because he's like, oh, he'll reset the world. He'll figure it out for us. Only the real strong ones will rule. And I'm like, he will eat you so fast and not give a damn. He is primal. All he wants to do is sit on top of a rock and be king. He wants to watch the earth burn in nothing but orange and red. He doesn't give a crap about this guy trying to control him. He just wants to be leader. So these people that wake up these beasts and wake up these monsters, when you're searching a tomb, think about it next time. Consider what it is you're waking up. Don't do it.
She does. She gives the good advice. Me, on the other hand, I say go do it. Go explore those tombs. Go take that.
Silver wants to see the world end. He is King Ghidorah.
Never know until you try. I'm sure that's how the world is now, with the hurricanes and such going on, the mass floodings, droughts. They might wake up soon. I'm sure we could talk about Godzilla for another hour.
I could easily do that forever, so just cut us off. Be done.
We'll go to the wrap-up. So thank you all for listening to this extra jazzy... I'm not sure why I said jazzy, but...
It was jazzy. You're fine.
Jazzy special 1st in October episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. Talked a little bit more, mainly Godzilla, but a little bit about all his other rivals, teammates.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to. There was a lot of people asking if we were going to do like Kong or if we were going to do like Mothra, and I was like, no, I'll talk about some of them in between, but we can't cover all of them in this one episode.
No, there's a lot of monsters in Godzilla.
Maybe we'll do like a Godzilla verse month or something 1 month way down the line. Maybe on like a Godzilla versary something.
Yeah, maybe if Godzilla comes out with a new movie. I think there is one coming out, ain't there? Or King Kong?
Well, Godzilla vs. Kong just came out and Mechagodzilla presented themselves. So now we've got to do the whole movie where they rebuild Mechagodzilla and Godzilla has to come back up and beat his ass. But now him and Kong are in an alliance. So let's hope for the best. But yeah, I'm sure there will be plenty more movies.
Yeah, we'll find some more specials to do in this Godzilla verse on.
Oh yes, for sure. For sure. And we've got a lot of cool things coming this month anyways. So Godzilla is just the tip of the iceberg.
We shall say our thank yous to our patrons. Mondi, Thor, and Ruby. I recently got our patrons switched over, so you can now search it in the search tab now, if you're looking for it, as well as clicking on our link. There is also, as always, it would be nice if you would please give us a review, a like, a share. It would definitely help out the podcast growth and get other people to know about it. Please do all that. And now on with Chaotic for the next hour and a half if she can do her half.
Shut up. Join us again next Monday on Monsters, Myths, and Mayhem, found on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Anchor.fm. Silver and Chaotic talk about how monsters and myths came to be and how they would be received in modern-day society. Follow, like, and subscribe to support. Also find the podcast on Twitter and Discord with the links below to keep up to date with the newest merchant activity. Besides, who knows what mayhem we will get into next.
If you would like to talk to Chaotic about her spicy Godzilla journal, you can talk to her over on her Twitch.
If anybody has ever wanted to write with me, if anybody has ever wanted to write with some really cool people from my community, we have an Etsy named Wrapped in Chaos, RAPPED in Chaos, and it's write with your favorite comfort character, anything you'd like. So if you'd like to check that out, please feel free.